Okay, good morning, everyone. We'll give it a couple of minutes once we have everyone in, but we will start very shortly. Okay, we are at 10:02. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time and joining with us today. We hope it's a good start to Welcome Week. What we're going to do is we're going to go over a little bit housekeeping rules. So for today's session, it's going to be a bit of a two-part. For the first part, it's going to be a bit of informational, and the second part, which hopefully will be the last 15 to 20 minutes of our session, to be Q&A. We ask that if you have questions, feel free to drop over at the Q&A, and me and Aiden will cover the questions as we get to the Q&A portion. As we get closer, we'll do a little reminder for that. But other than that, welcome. Welcome to Kresge College, and specifically Kresge Programs Office. My name is Mia. I use she, her pronouns, and I'll be one of the co-hosts along with my colleague Aiden. He will also be one of our Zoom producers. Aiden, would you like to say hi?
Sure, thanks, Mia. Good morning, everyone, and I'd like to echo what Mia said. Welcome to Kresge. We're really excited to get started off for this year with y'all. I'm the Assistant College Programs Coordinator, and my pronouns are he, him, his.
Great. Okay, so let's begin. Okay, so we're going to start. Who are we? So we're the Kresge Programs Office team, and me and Aiden, we are both the professional staff for this office. I work as the Interim College Programs Coordinator, and my acronym is CPC. Aiden is the Assistant College Programs Coordinator, and his acronym is ACPC. We supervise a group of programs assistants who will be known as PAs, and which is four of them, and they're mostly ranging from continuing students from third years to seniors. Who we also oversee is our Welcome Week orientation leaders, which you may have received an email of their little bios. We also staff advise the Kresge Parliament, which is Kresge College's student government organization. We also staff advise KMEC, which is the Kresge Multicultural Education Committee. And lastly, we used to previously supervise two of the co-ops, which is photo co-op and music co-op. Unfortunately, given the circumstances, both co-ops are currently suspended until further notice. But I recommend checking out these groups. I've included some links into this PowerPoint, which will be available to you after the event. Also, one quick hint, if you're interested in being involved, as well as looking for jobs, we're looking at hiring for programs assistant sometime later in winter quarter, as well as recruitment for orientation leaders for the next academic year. And that's about it.
Never too early to give a quick plug about future opportunities. Thank you, Mia. So before we get into anything more program specific, we wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about the structure and help explain a little bit better how Kresge fits into UCSC. And I'm sure this is something, if you haven't heard already, you'll continue to hear it, but I think it's worth emphasizing again. So Kresge is one of 10 colleges at UCSC. And I'm sure as you were going through and selecting what your college preferences were, you were taking a look at the themes. And that's really what separates each college from each other, is this idea of a theme in which it's a small learning community that folks can build community around. And for Kresge, our theme is power and representation. And that really becomes the lens through which folks approach their undergraduate education. And both in the side of education, the theme also bleeds into a lot of what we do in the student life side of things. So although the theme, a lot of folks tend to think about it more as an academic approach, it really becomes part of the type of programming that we do, the folks we collaborate with on campus, and helps to bring that essence to really all that we do at Kresge. And for anyone who hasn't had this explained to them yet, affiliation is specifically that you're affiliated with the college, and that is independent from your major. So Kresge is full of all different types of majors, but we're all centered and gathered around that theme that unites Kresge of power and representation. And I think you'll find that that really is repeated over and over and over again because it's so essential to what makes Kresge Kresge.
Thank you so much, Aiden. So basically with Kresge College, our theme, as Aiden has mentioned, as you'll hear continuously throughout the year, is power and representation. So a little bit of history about Kresge College. It was the sixth college that was established back in 1971. And at the beginning, it was designed with the concept of participatory democracy as a means of encouraging a strong sense of community. And throughout, from then on, and even currently now, we really emphasize on student involvement, student-driven groups, having you have a say in the decisions of how Kresge runs. Even with our programs office, we strive on getting input from you on how to create amazing programs. A lot of focus is on community, individuality, and creativity. That's three of the things that Kresge really values. Aside from creativity, Kresge was also known as a hub of a lot of writers. It homed a lot of our campus publishing, such as our rap magazine, City on a Hill, which is a famous campus newspaper, which is still going on up to this date. It used to offer journalism courses, comic writing, Write to Read, which is a course in which students receive credit for going to the Living Writer series. And so it has a lot of creativity and a lot of history of writers. And we used to have a close relationship with the literatures major. And one quick fact about Kresge College, I would say personally, we're a bit of a radical college because at some point in history, back in 1990, Kresge College decided to briefly redraw from the whole college system. At that time, grading system was more of evaluations rather than your letter grade grade system, which we are currently doing so right now, and that was not established until 2001 for UCSC. But for Kresge, at that time, when you had to enter Kresge College, you have to show a visa card, which, as you can see on our slide, Kresge College visa. that's what students usually have to show prior to entering the premises of Kresge College. So there you go, a little fun fact. All right, heading on to the next slide. Um, our Kresge Programs Office, which I'll let Aiden take over.
Thank you. And before diving into this, I think learning about this history and even just these small tidbits is really important for y'all to start to position yourselves within the legacy of Kresge. And y'all are joining a really rich history of former undergraduate students that have developed the college into what it is today. And y'all, through participating and really becoming members of this community, are what are going to carry it forward. All right, now getting a little bit more specific and talking about what our office, the programs office, does. This first bullet point here is really the way in which we approach things. So our purpose is to provide community building, which you've probably heard a lot already, and learning opportunities through our events and programs that align with Kresge's ethos and the needs of our students. So those are all things that I think we've already referenced, but I think just bringing that into a solid point is a great way to explain what we think about with our work every day. And while programming, we thrive from receiving student input and feedback. So that's definitely something you'll see a lot throughout the year at our events, really wanting to hear, and those things evolve as well. What are your needs? And those are going to be different quarter to quarter, different things you're going to need support with. And we want to be able to connect you with campus resources, but also provide a space to be social and unwind. And that's going to look very different in a virtual environment, but we've been exploring some really great ways to be able to do that virtually. And we're really looking forward to rolling those out. In terms of what kind of programs and events we've done, we'll reference just a few things in the past. And our office is really broken into two segments of programming: some larger scale programming that happens annually, like Welcome Week that's currently happening, as well as Commencement, which will round off the end of the year. We also typically have college nights, which are our biggest programs that happen quarterly. And those are themed events in which it's really gathering all of Kresge together. We've done movie screenings, different live music events, and they're quite large and typically involve a dinner, and those are really great. And a little fun fact about myself: I started back in February, so I'm a relatively new face to Kresge. So I've only seen one college night happen thus far, and it really was just such a fantastic space to really see so many Kresge folks come together. So this is kind of what you can think of as our large scale programming. But then every week, all throughout the quarter, we're doing lots of small scale active program events, as well as some passive events too, just sharing information, talking about updates on campus as well. And I see some folks in the chat have already been referencing some of these. So yeah, we've done lots of things such as open mics. We do late night breakfast, which is just kind of a de-stress, casual, grab some yummy food right before finals week. One of our PAs organized a Pokemon Go community gathering. So that was just based on some folks wanted a space to be able to do that with each other. So we looked to provide that. This past year, Planned Parenthood was a popular event. One of our offices, Shop on Campus, came and collaborated with one of our PAs to talk about sexual health. And while doing that, folks got to pop their own succulent and take that home. And I thought that was really cute. I should have gone and gotten a succulent, but folks are really happy with that. And then lastly, yeah, our Tiny Desk concerts. That was really fun. If anyone is familiar with NPR's Tiny Desk concerts, it's certainly a borrow from them, but there's actually a lot of really musically talented folks at Kresge, and that was a great way for us to get together and record different bands with their own original music to share out with our Kresge community, and I'd say was certainly one of the more popular things.
Yeah, I agree. And that's definitely all of these programs I missed back then, especially our Tiny Desk concert. It was fun seeing all the submissions from all our Kresge affiliated students producing like original work. And some of them are actually available on our Instagram. If you follow us at KC_UCSC, you might find some of their performances. But yeah. Okay, so next off, thinking about the future for fall quarter as well as the academic year, we transitioned into programming virtually. As you can see on the image, we did a lot of mixture of video submissions to passive education on our Instagram. And that included like weekly posts, which some of us, me and Aiden, actually contributed in some of the posts. One of our PAs launched a TikTok Tuesdays, and a lot of them were more like Kresge related. We've also done a Zoom watch party, which we hope we can kick off again, moving on to fall quarter as well as the rest of the year. And lastly, we kind of just post like questions or random things on our Instagram story as a way for all of you to participate. In terms of going into fall, we hope to collaborate a lot more with the other on-campus resources, and that could range from ethnic resource centers, career success, shop, etc. A lot more offices because, like I said, we're all transitioning virtually, but we all do want to get students be involved with us, no matter where you are. And we do hope to provide a mixture of like skill based as well as social. We understand that going into college at a time like this, it's very hard to connect with others, let alone trying to network. And we do hope we can provide those opportunities for you. And lastly, we are launching very soon our Kresge College Discord. Our hope for that space is for all of you just to connect with one another, as well as with our student leaders who are also involved in our Discord. We also hope to also use that as a way to pass on information. Um, and yeah, we hope we all could see you there at Discord. So stay tuned. Okay. So ways to keep up with us, as you can see, and as you may have received a lot of emails from me, Instagram is one of our key areas where you can be up to date on what we have going on. Many of our PAs will be posting their passive education as well as promoting upcoming events, let alone where we will be hiring new PAs as well as recruiting new orientation leaders. That's the place where you can find details of those positions. UCSE email, that is a hub you're always going to have to use and getting used to that. Not only you're going to be getting information from us, but anything regarding with you through UCSE and the other colleges, your UCSE email is the core place. And if you have families or your parents are asking you about information, it's been communicated to them that it's best to connect with you, because since all this information is basically coming to your UCSE email. On the third point is our Google Calendar. That's another tool that I highly recommend using, not only just our calendar, but in terms of scheduling classes or learning about other office hours, from advising to other departments. Many of them are using the Google Calendar. So start downloading or subscribing to some of the calendars. That way you have that on hand whenever you want to see upcoming events. The other things is our website. We are trying our best to continuously update with relevant information. And lastly, as I mentioned, Discord server, and we're also going to launch our YouTube channel, which we'll hope fairly soon. Many of our Welcome Week sessions will be pre-recorded and hopefully uploaded onto the YouTube channel. And our hope for that YouTube channel will be continuously updated throughout the year based on like the programs we record, or even any information from our provost or other offices. They may be uploading some videos onto our YouTube channel. I know that was a lot of information. Aiden, anything you'd like to add?
I would just add, based on a question that we got from
Oh, okay.
some folks that's relevant to this, about how they can sign up for small scale programs. And I would say this is a perfect way to be looking out for those. So there's no specific place to sign up for them, just in generally, because each one will be structured different. They might require registering in advance if there's a specific capacity to how many we can accommodate for that session, but really through our social media, and to be looking out for emails that we send, either from myself or from Mia, as well as on the activities calendars. That's where you're going to find links to different Zoom calls, as well as lots of different ways in which you can go about scheduling, participating in those small scale events.
Yeah. And when we advertise our programs, at the bottom of our flyers, we always make sure to include either me or Aiden's contact information, because another thing about our programming, we also want to be mindful of accessibility. So If you have any questions on how to be involved in our programs, we always make sure there's an email that you can contact. But yeah, okay. So next off, I know it's a bit intense, but feel free to take a screenshot. This is basically what we have up to date as of today of the rest of our Welcome Week session. As I mentioned, we are continuously finalizing details as we go, so it's very important to continuously check your Google Calendar especially. So going on for the rest of Welcome Week, from September 28th to October 4th, this is a week-long thing. I advise to download Goose Chase app. A couple of our orientation leaders has set up a virtual scavenger hunt with 3 grand prizes. The first place grand prize is AirPods. And it's based on what I've seen, it's going to be really fun. It's going to require of you like taking a photo or a video recording, but keep a lookout for that. On the 28th and the 29th, you'll have your academic advising based on whether your schedule permits. You have 2 alternative dates and times. You only have to register one of them, whichever that fits best for your schedule, and that pertains to both Frosh and transfer students. Next up for September 28th, we're also going to do a panel. It's titled Basic Skills, How to Be a Successful Virtual Student. That will actually be hosted by Aiden, presented by some of our orientation leaders, just to guide you, giving you tips on how to be successful as you transition being a virtual college student. On Wednesday, it's a bit busy, but some of our lovely orientation leaders is going to host a pajamas party lunch. And basically, it's just an opportunity for all of you to chat with one another in your pajamas, if you like, during lunchtime. Followed by Kresge Parliament's program called TV Show Jeopardy via Kahoot. And lastly, this is a required session for only Frosh students, which is Kresge Core Intro. And that will be hosted by your provost, Ben Leeds Carson, and a panel of some of the faculty members. But me and Aiden will be present as the Zoom producer. I know I've been receiving a lot of emails regarding about registration links. The event itself will start at 5 p.m. Just ignore the additional hour. It was just based on our Zoom webinar reservation. Next up for the weekend after your first day of classes, actually there is a Kresge Parliament meeting on the first day of classes, which I highly recommend checking it out. It's from 7 to 8:30 p.m. and that will be their weekly meeting time and date, Thursdays. It's a fun space, and basically that space is very important in regards of Kresge College because this group is basically a group of students ranging from transfers to all years. You all get to decide how you want to spend your registration fees in terms of funding programs, organizations. You get to make that decision and discuss matters regarding Kresge College. So the weekend for that, we have a Kresge Trivia Night. That also involves a lot of prizes, so I definitely recommend checking it out. And lastly, some of our OLs was kind enough to do a virtual tour recording in Kresge College in person, and they're hoping to launch that via our program's office Instagram at 7 p.m. The other part is Kresge Parliament. As they're moving forward with fall quarter, they do also have some programs. One is the Casey Courier Service. You may have received an email detailing about that program. We kickstart that back in August, and it's just an opportunity for all of you if you want to connect with another peer or with another continuing student. And this is open for both Frosh and transfer students. Kresge Parliament is also working on a podcast throughout fall quarter. Bi-weekly, they're going to produce an episode that covers various themes ranging from finances to a personal interview with our provost and as well as our financial literacy coordinator and many more special guests. And lastly, they are working very, very hard in launching a Kresge College Minecraft, which hopefully we will launch that I think sometime next month. So stay tuned. then again, I recommend taking a screenshot. The times and the links are available on our activities calendar. And so, yeah, that's all you got to stay tuned for. And now, here's the chunky part, QA. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop it on the QA, and me and Aiden will answer the questions.
All right, and before we dive into any of the questions, I see some rolling through, which is great. Feel free to keep submitting them. I know this can feel like a ton of information, and especially Welcome Week is just so packed with so much. Some things mandatory and some things not. So it's definitely working about balancing all of those things. But I just want y'all to be patient with yourselves and just trust the process. Starting at a new university, let alone virtual, is always an adjustment. And it honestly just takes time to become familiar with all the offices people are talking about, the acronyms that they are going to end up using for those offices, really just the structure of how the university works. So give yourselves fall quarter to really just be open to learning and hearing about all these different things that we're talking about on campus. And trust me, you'll slowly start to get a hang of it, and then you'll feel really proficient in understanding exactly how UCSC works. All right, well, we can go ahead and start answering some of your questions. Firstly, someone asked if there's a way to access a recording of this Zoom meeting afterwards, and definitely. We are recording it, and it will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, which is currently being set up, so the link of which will be shared probably sometime in the coming week as it's getting set up. So you can look out for that, as well as some of our other welcoming programs and events. If you weren't able to attend, you'll also be able to see the recordings on our YouTube. All right, next one, is the scavenger hunt mandatory? No, it's not, but we would highly encourage you, and you do have a chance to win AirPods, so I would hope that that would be a little bit of incentive, and you can think about it as a scavenger hunt full of tasks, so it's not necessarily going places, but once we roll it out and you have access to it, you'll see there's some fun things to do, and a lot is pretty Welcome Week specific in tracking your participation and different things that are happening.
And then next question, I see someone ask, I keep hearing Provost, and what is that? So Provost is basically, he is Ben Leeds Carson, and he oversees all the academic sides. He supervises the academic advising team, and anything regarding about grades or where your academic standing, and especially your for Frosh students, your Kresge core class, he is the head of that, and he supervises, I believe, the academic mentors, as well as collaborating with the faculty members who will be facilitating some of your Kresge core sessions. He is also the host of many of your core plenaries, which will be a series throughout fall quarter. And for this, I think on the 30th, he'll be hosting the Welcome plenary. I hope that answered your question about who he is as a provost.
All right, and then we have another question asking if we could drop the link to Kresge's Google Calendar. So Mia, I wonder if you wouldn't mind grabbing that and just throwing it in the chat. And then our next question, what is the YouTube channel called? So it will be called Kresge College, and we'll make sure to provide the link so that y'all are able to access that, and then hopefully subscribe if you'd like, so it's much easier to find. All right, another asks, will there be any socially distanced hangouts in person this fall? So that is a little bit of a tricky question to answer, but from our perspective as a programs office, we won't be hosting anything in person for this fall. If y'all might be aware, we have a small population of students living on campus, but even the folks that will be living on campus will not be engaging in any even socially distanced hangouts for fall. Of course, as y'all are aware, the situation with COVID-19 does continue to evolve. So as things continue to change, so will our ability to be hosting different things change, and that's going to look different all throughout the year and into even the next academic year. So certainly we'll be sure to communicate really clearly what we're able to do at the given moment, and as things change, update you on that as well.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, I'm assuming you may be living on campus. I know for this evening's orientation for Porter Kresge Residential Life orientation, it might cover COVID-19 safety precautions. But I do echo with Aiden. It's still a TBD at the moment in terms of social distancing hangout. But yeah, covering up the next question, college night. We haven't quite dabbled on that, but hopefully we can figure out another alternative, but I can't guarantee we'll still continue doing college night. Not unless if you all are open to like having your meal and doing a virtual dinner, maybe we could do something about that. And we're also open to any of you, if you can just like email us. We're also, like I said, we're open to hearing your ideas for programming. Um, but yeah, I do hope at some point in the future we can do college nights, but as of now, probably not.
Thank you, Mia. Our next question is regarding the Kresge Core Plenary on Wednesday. And just as a clarification, yes, the Zoom link will say that it starts at 4 p.m. That's on our end to go ahead and get on the Zoom and get everything prepped. The session itself will start at 5 p.m. So that's how it's listed on the Canvas calendar, as well as our programs and activities calendar. So you can have that 5 p.m. start time in mind. All right, and our next question, how do we join the scavenger hunt? So great question, I'm glad there's some interest in that.
Yeah.
So as we mentioned, it's being hosted through a platform which there's an app for called Goose Chase. So you're welcome to go ahead and download that. It's really easy to then utilize on your phone, and it's being launched on Monday. So we'll make sure to send out the link both on our social media and in an email promotion so folks are able to access our specific Kresge Welcome Week survey.
Oh, okay. Classes. For that, neither me and Aiden are sure how that is being communicated to all of you. I recommend checking in with uh, I think registration or admission, or even if you have the name of your professor, I would recommend directly emailing them. You can find your professor's email either on the campus directory, unless it's already listed on your class schedule. But hopefully they'll be sending out links fairly soon. I know all of us are still transitioning and trying to work some of the last minute details.
Definitely, and certainly each course is going to look different, and each professor is going to be running their course a little bit different for fall. So in terms of sharing Zoom links, there's not a standard protocol for exactly how they're going to do that. So it really is communicating course by course. Another person follows up asking where to access the Kresge Google Calendar. So Mia dropped that down in the chat to all of attendees. So you're welcome to grab that link from there and then add it to your UCSC Google Calendar overall. Someone else asks, will the Kresge 1 writing assignment due on the 30th be graded? Well, as someone who's not taking that class nor administering it, I can't confirm whether it will be graded or not. So that would certainly be a question for whoever has been your contact with that. Whether or not it's graded though, it's your first assignment. And I know it's just such a weird time and it can feel like, oh, well, if it's not graded, what's the point of doing my best? But I would just really encourage you to start off on the right foot. Sometimes you'll hear faculty give kind of a long-winded explanation of like every decision you make in college is setting yourself up for the type of person you're going to be. And well, that sometimes might be a little grandiose. It does have a little bit of truth to it in the sense of at this point, you are starting at university and you're here to make the most of that experience. So I would really encourage you, even if it's not graded, and especially if it is graded, to really just do your best on that and really be committed to all your coursework. Our next question is, do you think by winter quarter we are going to be in person or by next year? So that's another thing that will continue to evolve and change. I would say in talking with my housing colleagues, the university is being very conservative, and we really don't want to create a situation where we're inviting folks back onto campus too early. So that it's really going to be a decision that comes top down. Likely that will not be winter quarter. And likely the rest of the year will be mostly remote learning and folks living off of campus and things will slowly start to change and adjust. So the university intends to be as transparent as possible about what that process is going to look like. But yeah, in the reality, we really have everyone's safety as our priority, and that's going to guide our decisions.
Yeah, I think on a personal end, it really ends up if whether a vaccine will be available by then, because given how current situations, many of the universities are facing second waves and third waves, we ultimately want to make sure everyone is safe. So it's really, yeah, it's hope for a vaccine, and hopefully soon you all will have an opportunity to actually experience our campus. Okay, is there another meeting today, 7 to 8:30? That is only pertaining to students who are moving on campus today. If you are studying remotely, you do not have to attend this session. Like I said, it only pertains for anyone who's living on campus. That session is only covering housing policies as well as practices for COVID-19 living on campus.
Great. And then I see in our chat, we also got a question follow up previous about the assignment we are referencing if transfers have to complete that assignment. So I assumed folks are referencing an assignment for Kresge's core class in which transfers do not register for that core class. So that assignment would not apply to you. And then our next question, are classes through Canvas or the Slug Success? So I know courses are through Canvas, but I wonder, Mia, as a former undergrad, if you could illuminate this Slug Success.
Yes, a former UCSC alum, Merrill College. It for classes, it really depends on your professor. As Aiden has mentioned for a previous question, it really depends how they're formatting their classes. Some of them, yes, will be through Canva. For Slug Success, if I recall, I think it's a resource center, not necessarily a hub of where you can access your assignments. But most commonly is Canva, as far as I know. And when you enroll for classes, even in the future for winter and spring quarter, sometimes it will go more into detail how they're formatting their classes, how you will access your assignments, the readings, recordings, etc. Sometimes they may announce that on the first day of instructions. So as Aiden has mentioned, like, have a little patience, take a deep breath. Don't worry, that's great that you're concerned of where to access everything, even before classes start. But yeah, it really varies. So keep an eye out, especially for emails.
All right, I'll hop over to our chat to answer a couple other questions. Someone asked, is there any update for students who weren't planning to go to campus, who were planning to go to campus, pardon, but couldn't because of the fires? So yes, unfortunately, the fires did create a little bit of some chaos right there at the start of our academic year, and did have some effects on what housing was going to be offered. So at this point, if you haven't been officially confirmed for on-campus housing for fall, which you would have already known you'd be moving in today. You won't be you won't be living in on-campus housing for fall. So I would say, in terms of any updates around that, that should be the standard that you go by. Another person asks and says they're not currently living on campus, but if I plan on living there in winter quarter, should I attend the Zoom call this evening, the housing Zoom call this evening? So this is only going to be pertaining to folks who, as Mia mentioned, are moving on campus today and are living there for fall.
Mm-hmm.
If more folks are able to move on campus in future quarters, then a separate session will be hosted, and you can be looking out for communication specifically at the point of move-in.
Okay, and I see another housing related question. Since many students aren't on campus for the first semester and probably will later on, will the information about housing policies and whatnot for Kresge Res Life orientation be made available for all students later on? I do not have a 100% answer on that, since that is more on housing and res life, but I do assume they would have information available for future students moving on campus when the time comes. Um, Usually what happens when it comes to moving on campus, all of you, basically, I think either the first night or the second night, you all would be oriented what to anticipate in terms of housing policies. Could be through our Housing Res Live team or even through your residential assistant, the RA. Um, but as of now, hold on really on the news about whether you're moving on campus like winter and spring. Most of those information will be to be determined. But don't worry, most of those information will be available to you in a timely manner.
All right, our next question is if it matters if someone attends the Kresge Academic Advising Zoom for transfer students or for Frosh. So it's definitely important to attend the appropriate one. They'll be slightly different based on just kind of sort of different approaches to how to move forward with academic advising and specific information for freshmen and transfer students. So if you're a freshman, make sure you sign up for either of the freshman specific sessions, and the same goes for transfers. So it definitely is an important piece.
Yes. The reason why it's not really together because for Frosh and transfer students, you have different academic requirements and different academic standing. So it would be a different set of classes and units to be aware of. So really emphasize, make sure you've registered the appropriate session. I know it's a bit confusing in terms of the times and dates. As I recall with the schedule, it's you have a 2:15 as well as a 3:30 session, and I know they're opposite ones for either on the 28th or the 29th. And on our Google Calendar, we highlighted which one are specifically for which.
All right, and then our next question is about the bus schedule. So if we have the bus schedule, so there's two different buses that come onto campus for anyone who's maybe in the Santa Cruz area and will be socially distancing, visiting campus at all, or perhaps you live on campus. There's the Santa Cruz Metro buses, which are just the city buses, and that schedule is found on the Santa Cruz Metro website. So you can see the times for each of those bus routes. There's also the campus shuttle called the Loop buses, which run just circles on campus. They don't go out into Santa Cruz at all. And I don't think there's a specific schedule, but they come frequently to each of the bus stops on campus, maybe every 10 or 15 minutes. Some days when they're running a little bit fewer buses, so maybe every 20 minutes. And those are essentially options for buses to get around UC Santa Cruz.
Mhm. And I just dropped down on the chat for everyone UCSC's transportation info. Their acronym for that office is called TAPS. And for that website, that entails everything regarding Santa Cruz Metro buses, as well as the UCSC transportation and other things, including parking permits, etc. Going on, what is Canva? Canva is basically a software tool that our campuses uses basing on whoever uses. Sometimes professors use that tool as a way to upload assignments, PowerPoints, announcements, as well as discussion. But currently your use for Canva is, I believe, is where you're accessing all the UCSC orientation. As I understood, many of you incoming students have to complete some modules. So that is one tool our orientation office is using for Canva. And like I said, it varies who are the professor or our office. That's basically what Canva entails. It's just like a module space where you can access different documents and communication. And tying in with classes, I see another question. Will classes we've signed up for automatically show up on Canva? Not quite. So Canva, as I mentioned, is a learning tool that's completely separate. Your classes should pop up in your schedule in your My UCSC student portal. That portal is very important for all of you to make sure to keep track on, because that's where you're going to access in enrolling your classes, to add, drop, swap classes. That's where you're going to access your information about your finances in terms of financial aid, your personal details. I'll drop in on the chat the student portal. Just hang on a sec. But yeah, that's where you'll be able to find your class schedule once after you finish enrollment.
All right, and our next question is a little bit out of our purview, but hopefully we can guide folks in the right direction. They ask, if you haven't declared a major yet, is there something we need to attend during the department orientations on Tuesday? So congrats on being fun declared, as some really fun student life people like to say. But no, since you don't specifically have a major, uh, you won't be meeting with your major department because you haven't declared your major yet. So in terms of the realm of academics, you're still exploring for fall. So your coursework is not going to pertain to specific requirements of the major, even if you are pursuing one tentatively. But if you do have any types of questions, definitely our academic advisors at Kresge are happy to either answer your questions or connect you with other academic advising on campus who can help you out with that. So great questions to save for your academic orientations this upcoming Monday or Tuesday. But I know they're always welcome to receive your emails as well, and their contact information for our academic preceptor, who's in charge of academic advising, as well as each of our advisors, is available on the Kresge website under staff directory. So you can go find their little bios, and it has their emails as well. So we don't quite handle academic advising, so we don't know all the details of that, but those folks can definitely help you.
Yeah, and as advice and suggestion, as a former student here, it's very important you stay connected as you're trying to navigate which major fits well, what you are really passionate about. Stay in contact with the major department advisors as well as your college advisors at the same time, because it's very easy to confuse both roles. Your academic advisor, also known as college advisors, they are the ones to help you figure out your credits, your academic standing, your grades. Your major helps you in strategizing what classes that you need, what are your major requirements, what are your prerequisite classes that you'll need. And they also could help you plan out your 4-year plan or 3-year plan, however many years you decide on how to complete your major. And they also that plan also coincides with the academic advisor, because they can also help you balance out with your major classes as well as your GEs. So that's rule of thumb as you navigate. But yeah.
Well, that was our last question. So if folks don't have any others that they'd like to drop in our Q&A, we'll give just a second to see if any come through. But before we sign off, we just really want to thank you for taking the time to come this morning. I know, like I had mentioned earlier, there's a lot going on during Welcome Week, but really you being present here, even in a virtual way, is super meaningful to us. And we're so happy to get connected with you all and hopefully answer some of your questions and get you started on a little bit more of an informed path for fall. And we're definitely, don't be a stranger, where our contact information is on that same staff directory. So please reach out if you need anything. We're always happy to get you connected with other folks on campus.
Yay, I'm glad. I'm glad to you, Miles, that you come to join us. Really, yeah. I know for our office, we specifically focus on activities, but really to echo with Aiden, like, if you have any questions, really feel free to outreach to both of us, and we'd be happy to direct you to the right resources, because our office really links well and work parallel with housing advising, as well as with our provost. And so, yeah. And I think there was a question in the chat. We do not provide any assignments, not at all. We just hope that we can see you at some of our social events, as we've listed in one of our slides, and as well as on our Google Calendar. Nothing mandatory on us. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's going to conclude our session for this morning. The recording will be available shortly on our YouTube, so you can look out for that. Thank you so much for attending, and we hope you get a great start to your Welcome Week.
Yeah. I think I just got one more question. Is there a Kresge assignment each summer, as in we'll have one when we're sophomores? No. So the reading assignment you just received from your provost during the summer is only pertaining for Frosh students who are starting the core class. As you continue on sophomore, junior, senior, you will not receive any assignments during the summer. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone.